Hey summoners, and welcome back to another episode of our community coaching series here at ProGuides. In this video, we are going to review some of our users' games to go over various macro and micro play concepts that will help you improve your gameplay. Specifically today, let's talk about transitioning gold leads into advantages for your team, properly cutting bad losses, the effects of some simple laning errors, and wave management. Remember to use the Google form below in the description for a chance to be featured in our next video. And as always, we're looking to improve our content, so let us know if you have any feedback or suggestions in the comments down below. Before we get into today's coaching video, which will help you guys out so much in the long run and learning more about League of Legends, there's another way to learn more about League and get better, and that's through ProGuides.com. If you want to see massive improvements to your rank, we have a new feature called InstaPro, which provides 24/7 on-demand coaching by the best of the best. ProGuides is the best proven way to increase your rank, and the best part is it's free. So click the link below to watch guides made by your favorite pro players and receive coaching whenever you want. Now, let's get started. In our first game, we have one of our users playing Nunu. The biggest concern that we noticed with Nunu's early game was the way that he cleared his camps. In Champion Select, Nunu chose to run Adaptive Force over attack speed. Generally speaking, tank junglers will benefit more from attack speed because of poor damage scaling and high base AD. Healthier early clears are usually more important than the 5 or 6 damage Adaptive Force will provide later on into the game. Now, let's start breaking down the gameplay. While doing blue buff, Nunu stands still to auto attack. He does this for several camps, and there's two reasons why he should be kiting. By kiting back while doing your camps, you can take less damage and also reposition the camp to be closer towards your next one. You'll stay healthier and clear faster. This game, Nunu started blue and pathed towards bot lane. A combination of luck and good pathing allows Nunu to gank bottom for 2 takedowns. On his first reset, Nunu goes for a Catalyst. The issue with this purchase is that he's essentially spending 1100 gold on health and mana. Evelynn is behind, but by itemizing this way, Nunu doesn't have the combat advantage that he should. By building more aggressively, he can clear camps faster and invade for vision to make sure that Evelynn has no way back into the game. While Catalyst provides sustain, you still get the same outcome if you clear the jungle faster to take less damage and then use less mana. This is a gameplay pattern many high elo players will take advantage of when they pull ahead in the jungle. They'll create a lead for themselves and a lane, then they'll use that winning lane's priority to invade and choke out the enemy jungler. Take their camps, track them down, and make them cry. Now that's a real way to snowball your lead. While it doesn't go punish this game, the safer and more preferable choice would have been for Nunu to translate his gold lead into more aggressive itemization. Since he's already gotten his bot lane pretty darn ahead, he repeat ganks bottom and takes dragon afterwards. This is actually a good decision because repeating ganks on lanes helps continue to snowball leads and capitalizes on their lack of summoner spells. From this point, any jungler can continue to play around bot side because they'll have permanent dragon control and lane priority. This will result in free dragons and also bot turret. In our next game, we'll be looking at one of our users playing Janna. She's laning with a Kai'Sa and is against Tristana and Lux. Both junglers this game are starting bot side. It's okay to be scared of Rek'Sai and let the wave push in, but there is an alternative here that Janna could have taken. She could have helped Kai'Sa push the wave. In this scenario, Janna should have auto-attacked the wave a lot more along with her ADC. As a bot lane, her and Kai'Sa can both dodge Lux's poke, and they can also stand away from the minions while doing it. This is an important tip. The point here is that in lower range or melee matchups, Lux can use 1E and hit both the minions to help shove and the enemy bot lane, essentially doubling up with one ability cast. Instead, because it's Kai'Sa and Janna, they can play around that, and they can make sure that she's hitting the wave while Lux doesn't also hit her E on them. Trist and Lux's goal is to push the wave and create pressure. Pushing waves allows Tristana to free farm and also allows for Lux to move into the bush to look for snares or poke. Conversely, if Kai'Sa and Janna push, Janna can be the one entering the bush to create pressure and are also able to prevent their enemies from accomplishing their goal. Let's talk about Kai'Sa's positioning when Janna goes in for a trade here. The wave is pushing into Janna's turret, so she's at a slight disadvantage while looking for a trade. She executes this trade correctly in this context, poking and trying to immediately back off. This is risky, but not necessarily a bad play because Lux is out of potions. Lux will throw a snare and catches out Janna. Now, Watch Kai'Sa's positioning. Due to the state of the minion wave, it's initially the right call to not move forward and let Janna trade by herself. After Janna gets snared, she moves forward aggressively, and this is an excellent execution of playing parallel with your lane partner. In this situation, the biggest misplay is that Janna uses her shield on herself. With how long the cooldown is, she'll only be able to cast it once this fight unless it turns into an all-in. Janna shouldn't have reactively shielded herself here. If the enemy bot lane wanted to commit to an all-in, a late shield would have been just as effective as an early one. She should have recognized that if Tristana decided to jump on her, then she could shield herself, ignite the Tristana, and flash out. Since the enemy lane had the choice between Kai'Sa or Janna in this situation, Janna should have held her shield to decide who needed it. On top of that, Janna should have tried to ignite Lux when she moved forward, or flash ignite and auto-attacked her after coming out of the snare. Although this aggression is very specific, many games in the bot lane will rely heavily on properly reacting to aggression. When our opponent's positioned too aggressively and we're attempting to fight back, we need to develop the foresight to accurately understand what will happen in the next couple of seconds during our fights. It will go a long way in the end. After resetting and returning to lane, there are game-losing mistakes that Janna ends up making. She sees Rek'Sai pass by a tri-bush ward, so she knows that she's in the bot side of the jungle. Janna's jungler, Zac, is on the top side of the map. This means that Rek'Sai will either gank immediately or counter jungle, then gank. Regardless, her goal should be to let the wave push in. There is one main way that she can do this, and what she should do is try to figure out where the enemy bot lane is and where Rek'Sai is by using abilities to check bushes or taking a safe route to ward. Since the wave is closer to her side, Janna's wave will push. She and Kai'Sa need to fast push, then allow the next wave to slow push back to them. After the fast push, Janna starts using her tornado aggressively, and this is bad. This is really bad. Tristana just picked up a double kill and Kai'Sa is behind. Tristana's engage range is gigantic, and if she gets enough auto attacks to blow up her bomb, she resets her jump cooldown. This means she can jump, pop her bomb, and jump again, effectively covering half of the lane's length. Anytime Janna's tornado is on cooldown, it's an opportunity for Tristana to jump in and look for kills. With her item advantage, she should essentially win any 1v1 fight against Kai'Sa. Janna and Lux are equal at this point, providing nearly equal damage and shields. The other issue here is that she pushes the wave back and exposes herself for Rek'Sai's imminent gank. Remember that Rek'Sai was on the bottom side of the map. Although Janna ends up winning this game, this start to the laning phase gave Tristana a 3-0 lead that she could have potentially solo carried with. When playing from behind, you cannot do any autopiloting. Do what you can to stop the bleeding and keep thinking about what the best play is. Especially against snowbally champions, the best play usually is to avoid trading. By staying healthy, we can't get dove or repeat ganked and are less likely to become a liability. So on the opposite side of that spectrum, we want to look at our users playing Aurelion Sol. This game, he plays too passively and is unable to impact the map the way that he would like to. At level 1, Lux ends up missing her snare, which means this is a great opportunity to take an extended trade with her. It's important to punish your opponents when they miss important abilities, and Aurelion Sol could have gotten a trade to make Lux use one or even both health potions. This pattern happens again when Lux and Aurelion Sol are level 3, and while Sol loses this trade initially, he's not optimally trading back. It's only natural that he'll lose a short trade because Lux is running Electrocute, but Sol's W will continue to deal more and more damage the longer the fight goes. He's afraid to use his Q, which would have helped him out even out the trade. The nature of trades is that you'll deal damage but take some in return. Especially as a Sol, you have to not be afraid of taking any damage. Corrupting Potion will help provide the health and the mana that you need, so it's ideal if a Sol can expend his mana and then take damage and make sure that he gets the most value out of his Corrupting Pot, rather than solely use it for the health. If Aurelion Sol had gone for longer, extended trades, he could have gotten lane priority, pushed into turret, and then looked for a roam into one of the side lanes. Regardless, he would have given Lux a hard time farming under tower, and then could have looked for a reset after pushing the wave in. There's a concept that we've talked about a lot before, and that's when you pick a champion, you need to know how to play to its strengths. Aurelion Sol's biggest strength is his ability to push in the wave and then roam. By playing passively, not using any mana, and being afraid of taking damage, you're essentially failing to take advantage of his full potential. When players wonder how high elo players solo carry their games, it usually starts with something small. A gank or successful invade comes from a detail as subtle as winning a single trade. Lane priority and successful trades create opportunities to roam and lose almost nothing. This is how sometimes one player has more pressure than their lane opponent. They take advantage of their enemy's inability to be proactive and make their own plays to impact the game. With this in mind, there's an even easier approach that Aurelion Sol could have taken in the early game. Since Lux started snare, her wave clear is going to be terrible early on. Whether or not he got hit by the snares, Sol could have used his W to fast push waves and then simultaneously poke Lux if she walked into range. Lux's response, however, will be to use mana to poke, but Corrupting Pot will help mitigate this. If she uses her mana to poke, she won't have much left to help her farm under turret. By trading his health and potions for Lux's mana, he'll eventually be able to fast push a wave and immediately get a reset. With Lux being out of mana, she could have difficulty pushing the wave back to punish the reset, and Aurelion Sol can come back with a Darksteel purchase to continue hard pushing. In that case, if he's afraid of jungle ganks, he can look to use his ward on the other side of a fast pushing wave. He can then continue to push waves while hugging that side, running to the opposite side if he sees the enemy jungler on his ward. For mid laners, it's always optimal to ward one side and then hug that side. Later on, some indecisiveness makes a Sol's roam pretty ineffective. Even if you can't successfully gank a lane, roaming to create pressure is still an effective way to create leads. The issue is that Aurelion Sol spends time running back and forth and lets Lux push in his wave for free. He could have backed off when he knew that the gank wouldn't work and still caught to his minion wave. By being in lane faster, he could have fast pushed the wave and then gotten lane priority for another roam. While you won't always have gank opportunities, you need to play correctly, so that if the possibilities arise, you're able to capitalize on them. Aurelion Sol did not take advantage of his early game strength and played too passively this game. Playing too passively is just as much of a mistake as over-aggression. He should have taken lane priority off of Lux's missed snares, gotten vision for himself, pushed again, and then looked for roams. Coming back to the bot lane, we're going to look at another user playing Jin. The focus of this replay will be wave management. Starting off, Jin has a solid laning phase. He and Vel'Koz have managed to deal a lot of damage to Ezreal, putting him in a sticky situation. This gives us a chance to talk about resets here. When resetting, there are three factors that you need to account for: your wave and its position, your gold, and how safe you are. Ezreal wants to reset because he's in a dangerous spot, and while he would want to base with the wave in a good spot, it's very difficult for him to do that and manage the wave because he's too low to have priority. In this situation, it's on Jin's own accord to dictate the wave. When you know your opponents are low and want to recall, there are two ways that you can take advantage of your lane control. The easier of the two options is to establish a slow or a fast push, crash it into a turret, and then take the first reset. This gives you a big tempo advantage, so you can show up to lane first and then manage it however you want. In most cases, the wave will be pushing back to you, so based on what your goals are, you can then choose to push the wave back or continue to let it build and deny your opponents more farm. Another scenario that can arise is after your reset, your opponents can try to push in the next wave and make you miss that wave. A way to avoid this is to initially get a slow push, wait, and then crash the wave when the next incoming wave is a cannon wave. Cannon waves are harder to fast push, so by the time you get back into lane, you'll be able to set up a freeze and gain an experience advantage while your opponents are back. There is a second strategy and option, and it's more rewarding but also more difficult to pull off. You can set up a freeze and then recall simultaneously with your opponent. Part of this will come down to some mind games, because if your enemy calls out your bluff, they can break the freeze and push it in. It's important to take advantage of Fog of War here and keep vision of your enemies when possible. We have a great example of this in one of our other videos where we show how Dopa crushes his opponents using this exact tactic. A mistake enemy players commonly make when you're using this method is that they'll recall in bad spots. If you have vision or can predict where they are, you can move past your wave to stop their recall. Since the wave is pushing back into you, the longer it takes for your opponent to reset, the more that they'll miss. You can recall once you've established a freeze and that wave will slow push into you. You can also make it back to lane with the wave just outside of your turret and your opponent will miss multiple waves as a result. Spoiler alert, Jin dies. This happens a couple of minutes later, so let's break down why this happens. Sure, part of it is mechanical, but he could have avoided being in this situation altogether with solid wave management. After getting Ezreal low, Jin should look at his wave and recognize it's pushing into him. If the wave gets too big, he won't be able to manage it. He thins it and handles his wave poorly. While Ezreal is resetting, Jin farms the wave normally and then backs to base. His wave has already established a slow push. He then cancels his recall to continue pushing the wave, and his opponents return to lane and now the wave is in a horrible spot. While Jin has a wave advantage, Ezreal and Pyke have item advantages and full mana. Jin and Vel'Koz have not based yet. They need to push in the wave so that they can reset. Jin and Vel'Koz use the last of their resources to trade, but have now expended everything. Sorry that we spoiled it, but now you have a lot of the context. Jhin had so many options here. He could have pushed the wave back earlier and then forced Ezreal to stay for another wave and or miss it if he left. The other option here would have been to thin the wave down to 1 or 2 minions, drag it to the middle of the lane, and then recall in a bush. Either of these two options would have denied Ezreal more farm and also allowed him to come back with an item advantage. That way it's safe for him to push. That was a mouthful, so let's recap. Number 1, when we build gold advantages, we can itemize aggressively to continue snowballing. Number 2, we talked about parallel play in the bot lane, and also cutting your losses when you fall behind. You need to avoid trading and respect the enemy jungler. You really shouldn't be afraid of trading, especially when your opponents miss abilities. Take advantage of cooldowns, get favorable trades, and turn that into some good lane priority. Finally, after a good starts to laning phase, make sure to utilize effective wave management to build better leads. That concludes this episode, and we thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, check out our other guides on our channel. If you're interested in improving fast, also check out ProGuides.com for courses by pro players and our partners designed to help you to take your game to the next level. Good luck on the Rift, and we'll see you all next time.